Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
Hello, Nikki Kinzer. How are you?
I'm good. It's just you and me today.
I know. What's that all about?
I know.
Nobody loves us anymore. I guess I stepped in poo.
I fell in mud.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a comical segue. Tell me that story.
Oh, I'm really happy that nobody was around to watch this.
Was it just this week? Was it at the big concert?
No.
Nikki went to see Depeche Mode.
I did. It was so fun. Yes.
I imagine there is a Venn diagram of people who listen to this show who are also Depeche Mode fans in our age bracket.
I bet you there is.
Really jealous right now,
Yeah.
or might have actually been there.
Yeah, or at one of the concerts.
Right.
Right. Because they're on tour right now. So
They are.
Yeah, no, that was fabulous. That was a wonderful evening, but that's not when I fell in mud.
I'm so sorry about the mud thing. Let's get back to that.
So my dog went missing. Now, he wasn't missing for long, but we have in our backyard, we live there's a mountain behind us and there's not a fence and there's a street, between the mountain and us. And all summer long, my dog has done wonderful things. He's been trained and he doesn't go up farther than where the street is and he comes back down. Well, the last couple of times he hasn't been listening.
Wait, because there's no fence there?
No,
at the top
because
of your property?
it goes up a hill.
It's a very steep hill.
It's a steep hill, right?
Yeah.
And the last couple of times that he's been out there, he doesn't listen to us. He's a naughty dog.
Oh.
He's rebellious. And he goes up. I don't know where he goes, but he goes away. And so we're trying to find him and we can't find him. And I was afraid that he was going to get up to the street and get ran over. So there's this house that's being built up behind me. And it's like a mud pit, right? Because they don't have any, it's not landscaped. It's being built at this moment and it rains in Oregon and I'm trying to go up the hill in my son's sliders, right? So those are those little slider shoes. Yeah. And, I get stuck in the mud. I can't move. No. And then I try to turn around and I totally fall on my butt and start sliding down the hill. And to top it off, I was wearing a white sweater.
Oh, Nikki.
Yeah. At least I had black pants on. So that was okay. But the sweater, yeah.
You were a comically bad movie. That whole experience.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But we did find the dog.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. But what was funny is he comes back down the hill. He's all happy. Oh, look, I'm listening now. Oh, yeah. And he wants to get a treat. He comes into the house and he's wanting to get a treat. I'm like, seriously? Really? You think you should have a treat right now? Do you look at my butt? My butt is muddy. He did not get
I'm so sorry. No treat for you.
No treat. Okay. So anyway, off subject.
Well, we're talking about today's a digital episode and it's kind of jam packed. So I apologize ahead of time, but we've had one topic on the schedule for many, many moons and another topic that just cropped up. And I realized these two topics actually work fairly well together and I want to talk about them both. And so we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about silencing your digital noise on your devices. And we are going to talk about writing. We're going to talk about writing for introspection. And so I'm very excited about both of these topics. Before we do that, head over to takecontroladhd.com. You can get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list and get an email each time the latest episode is released. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD and call us. Leave us a voicemail at 503-664-4ADD to get your thoughts on this show. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget, 5-star reviews in iTunes and recommendations in your favorite podcast player helps others to discover the show when they need help. So pay it forward and drop us a kind review. We sure appreciate it. And don't forget, we also have our Patreon page. If you want to support us more directly on Patreon, you can certainly do that. Patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. Thank you for your support.
There you go.
We have a little follow-up.
Oh, just a very quick little follow-up from our show last week. So I'd gotten a couple of email responses from our show with Gabriel and Heather last week, and very positive. I mean, just, talking about ADHD and strengths and hearing other people's stories it can be such an inspiration. On the flip side of that, it can also be something that makes you feel worse, right?
Yeah.
And I did get a little bit of feedback too about how they didn't necessarily resonate or relate to Gabriel's, specific story, and didn't feel that ADHD was a blessing and really struggled with it. And so my response to that listener, and also to other people that may feel the same way, is to remember that, that's his story. And you have your own story. You have your own story to still write. And what I would hope is that you find either inspiration either from him or in other areas, just to know to not give up hope, that there are so many different ways to navigate your ADHD and create your story. And even if you felt a little bit bad, after listening to the show, or just frustrated because you're not at that place, just don't give up hope, because you can, definitely write your own story.
Absolutely.
And that's what I want to just bring to attention, because I think, we've had a lot of guests in the month of October, which is wonderful. I love it when we have guests on the show. And, you're not always going to relate to everything that somebody says, and you're not always going to relate or agree with what Pete and I say. And that's okay, because we can that's why we have these conversations. We want to bring attention and awareness and talk about it. And we love hearing your feedback. And so don't be afraid either. If it's something that you really don't agree with, we're not going to take that personally, unless you say you hate, my voice, or you hate me, or, I might take that personally.
Yeah, right. There are limits.
Yeah, right.
Be nice, at least.
There you go. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say, just to kind of give some people encouragement that, may not be in the best place right now with their ADHD.
Right. Thank you for writing in, certainly, and for sharing your thoughts. And for now, let's dig into our topic today. Now, Nikki, part one of today's epic mega digital show was on the calendar, and I did not put it there. Now, this is using devices, our digital devices, without getting distracted. I assume, because I did not put it there, that you put it there. And I'm curious if you remember back that far, what may have inspired you to put it there?
I don't remember. I think you probably told me to start planning, and you wanted me to use this Excel sheet, and it was going to help you if you knew what the topics were. And so I started writing things down.
That is fair and honest feedback. Not what I expected, but probably how it happened.
Probably, yeah.
I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and it's just, you go out to dinner with somebody and they get out, their phone starts buzzing and binging, and they don't know what to do. And maybe it rings during a meeting, and you get the momentary freak out, the context freak out. Oh my God, I didn't know that my phone was still on. I don't know how to do it. I power it off. I don't know how to manage my bings and buzzes, right?
Yeah, right.
And so if you already know where your notifications or how notifications work on your digital device, that's fine. And this may seem like old news. Skip ahead a little bit. But if you don't, if you're one of those people who genuinely doesn't understand how to parse your digital buzzes and bings, this is for you. We're just going to talk briefly about the kinds of things you need to look for on your digital device, and so that you can just teach yourself a little bit, and have more control over what things bing and buzz. And why is that important, you might ask, to the ADHD brain? Well, because we fight distraction. Oh dear, do we fight distraction? And knowing how to turn off the bings and buzzes, either all at once or selectively, it can dramatically impact your ability to stay focused on a task when you really need to stay focused on that task. That's a big deal.
Well, because especially when you think of out of sight is out of mind. So you won't necessarily think about that notification not coming through when it's not coming through, because you're not thinking about it. It's not right in front of you. So it doesn't matter what was on USA Today, because you're not going to be thinking about it. You're not,
exactly.
So yeah, a lot of pluses there.
Well, and I go through phases where I feel like I have a little bit more control, and I'm a little bit more aware, and I can turn some notifications back on. when I feel like I need to be notified of certain things. And then I go through these phases where any notification is a disaster. It's a bomb that goes off in my brain, and I want to crawl under a desk because I can't hide from all the noises, and I have to turn everything off. And really take back ownership. That's really what we're doing when we're managing these notifications, is taking back ownership of the way people and things and services are allowed to reach into our lives. And so I'm pretty passionate about notifications, and I love granular control over what can reach me and what can't. And in particular, what little badges are on the icons, the badges?
Yes,
like the 27,000 unread emails. I hate that so much. I'm in pretty good control over my email, so I rarely have any badges on my emails, but I turn those off completely. I don't want to see any badges on any apps ever, because then I'm always wondering. It's the locked door syndrome. What's behind the door? So that's what we want to talk about. So the first category I want to talk about is strictly notifications, right? It's the buzzes and bings that come into your phone. These are by apps and system services. That includes rings. A ring, when your phone rings, is a notification, right? Messages, text messages, these are all notifications that come in to your system. So the first thing to do is to learn your app settings so we'll start on an iPhone. If you open your iPhone and go to settings, notifications, and notifications, there's a notification style list of all of your apps. You can see all of your apps that are installed on your phone, and you can control how they bing and buzz to you. And there are a number of choices there. You can control the badges on the app icon, for example. You can control sounds, whether the notifications bing or buzz, or if they are silent. You can control whether they show on your lock screen. Do you know what that means?
Well, yeah, so that if your phone is locked and you have to have a password to come in, you're still getting the notifications.
Yeah.
Right?
So and a lot of the newer iPhones, right? When you pick up your phone, there's a wake or there's a raise to wake service, right? It's on by default. So if your phone's sitting on a table and you lift it up, you don't have to press anything. Your lock screen will just show. And so this controls whether or not you can look at the lock screen without opening the phone and see the latest notifications and scroll through them. So you can also control whether your notifications show as banners, whether they're persistent banners that slide down from the top of your screen and stay there until you dismiss them, or whether they're temporary. They slide down for a couple of seconds and then slide away again. And some apps offer even further customization than that. If you're using the built-in mail app on the iPhone, you can actually control notifications based on email accounts. So if you have 2 or 3 email accounts installed that you're checking on your phone, you can have some of them that actually display all the notifications in great detail, and some of them that have notifications turned off completely. And so you just kind of have to explore inside the apps and notifications that you use most frequently whether or not you want to be notified. Some of these apps, I tend to be fairly bearish about notifications, and I go in here at the app level and turn them off. For the ones that are going to be super distracting. This is where you do that. Now on Android, you can go into settings and then sound and notification in settings, and then you see your app notification list. And again, you get the allow notifications or block notifications. You get treat as priority, which is an option that says, if you're in do not disturb mode, which we'll talk about in a moment, if your phone is locked and you don't want any notifications, this app, if it's selected as treat as priority, will be able to jump through that block. So you'll get notified from this app, but not any other app in this particular mode. And then allow peaking. That's the word for banners, right, on Android Marshmallow or newer, where you can actually have the notification, slide down. So there are a lot of granular, settings per app on Android as well. And in fact, Android tends to be even more granular and offer more granular settings for notifications than iOS. So if you're an Android user, definitely jump in and look at your app list and make sure you think about, do I want to hear from this app all the time? By default, the app wants to tell you it's there. It's always wanting to yell at you and tell you it's there. And you have to take control and say, shut up. Shut up, app. Put baby in the corner.
Bugging me.
So those are app notifications. Any questions, Nikki?
No.
Okay. let's move on to our second major section, and that is do not disturb. I love Do Not Disturb, and Do Not Disturb allows you to say to your device that calls and alerts that arrive while the phone is locked and silenced will be silenced. There are no alerts will come through. And on iOS, a little moon icon shows up in the status bar. And so you can see that this is, I'm in Do Not Disturb mode. There's a Do Not Disturb button in the control center. If you swipe down from the top on your phone, you'll see the option to go into Do Not Disturb. You can also go into settings and then Do Not Disturb. It's just right there below notifications. You'll see the little moon button and you can click into Do Not Disturb. You can set Do Not Disturb manually where you just turn it on, which says, I don't want to be notified by anything right now. So in our case, we're doing a podcast. I don't want to be notified by anything. So I'll turn on Do Not Disturb so nothing gets through. Or in addition to that, you can turn on Do Not Disturb on a schedule. And I love this so much. Have you ever played with scheduling your Do Not Disturb, Nikki?
Well, not with my phone, but with my kids' phones, because especially with my daughter, she has friends who think it's fun to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and call her.
Yeah.
And of course, her phone is, out in a central place in our house so everybody can hear it and it's loud and it's like, okay. So we definitely made the rule of doing that with them.
Oh, it's perfect. Well, so scheduling Do Not Disturb is as predicted. You turn that on and you say from this period to this period, I don't want to hear any notifications. Do Not Disturb is on. So many people that I run into have no idea that this even exists. They've never tried to explore it. And when you're dealing with, wanting to get a good night's sleep, for example's primary purpose is it's great. My son, since we don't have, Do Not Disturb on at night, he actually has Do Not Disturb on during the day when his phone's in his backpack. And so he doesn't get any calls or notifications while he's at school. And that's actually another thing that just sort of helps, help the thing kind of not bing and buzz inappropriately. So lots of different ways you can use Do Not Disturb. The feature is, it gives you a little bit more control than that. You can get repeated calls. So the second call from the same person within 3 minutes will be allowed through if you turn that option on. And new in iOS 11 on the iPhone, you can turn on Do Not Disturb while driving. Have you played with this one?
No, but when I was looking at your notes, that jumped out at me because we have a new, soon to be new driver. Yeah. And I'm thinking this is so smart.
Yeah, it's really smart. And a new, actually brand new law on the books in Oregon for those of us in Oregon, US, where, it's a stoppable offense now if you have your phone up to your ear. You have to not be using your phone. And there are, I don't know all of the details. I just know put the phone in the console and close the lid, right? Mm-hmm. But what's lovely about Do Not Disturb while driving, calls are allowed through to the iPhone only when the phone is connected to Bluetooth or a hands-free accessory. Otherwise, the phone's locked and will trigger an auto reply automatically. And it says, if you text me while I'm driving, it says, hey, I'm driving right now, but and so I'm not seeing this notification. But as soon as I get it stopped, I will be able to see this notification and I'll reply to you, right?
That's great.
It is great. I love that and use it absolutely. It is triggered by GPS and movement. It tries to be intelligent. So when you get in the car, especially when you plug into like a CarPlay, device, you can, it'll know and it'll turn on this driving thing. If you are not driving, so if I try to unlock my phone while I'm driving, it actually pops up. It says, you're in Do Not Disturb while driving mode. And there's one button on the screen, and that is I'm not driving. So if you're a passenger in the car and this turns on, you can actually turn off Do Not Disturb while driving with one tap of one button, and it turns it off. But This is just a great thing to just know, to internalize, to build the habit. I'm always in Do Not Disturb while I'm driving. I don't want to be notified. I want to be safe. My choice is safety. So So that's do not disturb on Android. You can also set schedules. You have in my limited experience, I'm not a regular Android user, but in my limited experience, you have more granular control over the specific notifications that you do allow through the do not disturb barrier. And you can set a time limit, for example, like no interruptions for N hours. So I'm going into a meeting for 2 hours. I want do not disturb on for 2 hours, and then I don't want to have to think about turning it off again. So it just turns off at 2 hours, like a timer for do not disturb, which is pretty handy as well. So that's do not disturb. And so your phone in this case is still on. It's still receiving signals, but it's just not notifying you. There is a third mode, which we all know. If you're traveling, you get on a plane and you have to go to airplane mode. What does that mean? I run into people who don't actually know what's going on inside their phone when they go to airplane mode, and still will power off their phone completely, when they get on the phone. That's kind of old habit, but we don't have to do that anymore. Now, in the US, when you're flying, you need to go into airplane mode. That turns off your antennas. Right? So you have 3 antennas in your phone, or there's actually many little antennas, but there are 3 main categories of antennas. There's your cellular antenna. So when you're out and about, driving around, walking around in a mall, you'll be on, LTE or 4G. That's your cellular data antenna. There's your Wi-Fi antenna. When you jump on a Wi-Fi network, that's a second category of antenna. And there's your Bluetooth antenna. So if you're connected to a smart watch is connected to your phone, or some other presentation device, or your Apple Pencil is all connected through some combination of Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and cellular. If you go into airplane mode, it actually turns off those antennas, right? So now you're not getting notified, not because your phone is selectively telling you, I don't want to be notified about certain things. You're not being notified because you're not getting a signal, right? You're not receiving a signal. There is no in and out of data to your device. That is, that's the biggest sort of hammer you can put down on your notifications. I use airplane mode all the time when I really, really, really want to focus on something, right? If I'm sitting down and I'm trying to write, if I'm sitting down and I'm working on a project, if I'm editing a podcast, if I'm whatever my project is I'm working on, I'll go into airplane mode when I just need to shut down. Because again, that locked door, I don't want to see that a notification has come through that will distract me. So I turn that off. Now, all of these systems allow you now to go in and go into airplane mode and then turn back on individual antennas. Like, for example, the use case for me is you turn back on Bluetooth if you want your watch to work and you want your Apple Pencil to work, but you can leave the cellular and Wi-Fi antennas off as needed. So I like that a lot. So that's a handy one to get to know. And finally, there is, if you're an Apple Watch user, and forgive me, I don't know any of the other watch manufacturers. I've never used any watch other than the Apple Watch, but I do love this feature. It's called theater mode. And so the Apple Watch, when you pick it up to look at it, it's off all the time. So the screen is black until you pick it up to look at it. And then the screen turns on and the clock shows up so you can tell the time. But if you're in a theater, that can be very, very bright. And so you're in a dark room, and you even if you don't intend to look at your watch, when you move your arm a certain way, the watch might turn on and totally blare somebody's eyes out, who's sitting next to you. So you just swipe up from the bottom on your Apple Watch, and there's the 2 theater masks, the happy and sad mask. And if you hit that button, that will leave your phone receiving notifications, and it'll still tap you if it needs to tap you, but it won't actually activate on raise to wake. So it won't show you this. It'll stay black no matter how you move your arm. So I just like that's a little trick, and I feel like that was snuck in watchOS 4 that most people haven't explored yet. So watchOS 4 notifications, very handy.
Awesome.
What do you think? That's a quick review, but what do you think?
Yes. Great.
Useful stuff.
Very useful. And now we just have to do it. We have to turn the notifications off, and we have to turn airplane mode on. I think that's the biggest key is now you you know how to eliminate the distractions in this case and silence that noise. And now we've got to just follow through with it.
You really do. And so I really love having these things in iOS 11. You just swipe up from the bottom of the phone and you're in Control Center, and you have buttons for Do Not Disturb and for airplane mode. And now in iOS 11, they actually show you all 4 buttons for managing your antennae. So you can drop off of the cellular network, you can drop off of the current Wi-Fi network, you can turn off your Bluetooth and disconnect your current Bluetooth device, and you can jump into airplane mode, all with a quick swipe up from the bottom. You see those options. I really love it. I think the more intimate you can get with where those controls are in your specific device, the happier you will be. And I'm telling you, I turn these things off all the time. Do it, try it, shut it down. And you can do it without having, because I shut it down because I still need to use my device, right? It's not like I'm trying to put it away. And that leads us into our next question, or our next topic, which I will be brief. But I have been thinking a lot about journaling lately. And
why?
Well, a number of reasons. First, it's NaNoWriMo is coming up. National Novel Writing Month starts November 1st. And I am a big proponent of NaNoWriMo. If you like writing fiction, this is a great opportunity to sit down and join a collective of people around the world who are attempting to write a novel in the month of November. I've been involved in some way, shape, or form as a participant for the last 14 years.
Wow,
and so I'm a big fan of NaNoWriMo. But I got to thinking about journaling, and do you journal? Are you a journaler?
I do journal. I don't do it every day, and I don't, I'm not consistent every day, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not trying to be consistent every day.
Right.
I journal when I feel the need to, and that's okay with me. So, but I definitely do. Yes.
I think that's really important. And I like that you give yourself permission, right, intentionally to say, I don't have to journal every day, right? But I do journal because there are benefits when I need it. And that's me too. I'll sit down and I journal. I journal more often these days than I ever have. And part of it is because of the technology. And part of it is because I'm just continue to expand my horizons around why I journal, the kinds of things I write, in my chosen journal of choice, whether it's, building a deeper relationship with myself, it sounds kind of weird, but I like having a dialogue with myself, right?
Yeah.
I ask me through my journal to help me solve problems.
Well, and isn't it amazing how it does that?
It does.
I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. There was a period in the summer where I journaled for probably 5 days straight, and they were long. And I came to conclusions that I don't think I would have come to if I hadn't gone through that process.
Yeah, you come up with like these creative solutions to things that you're butting your head up against, and it's really valuable. And if you've never tried it, that can be a surprise. After a couple of days, you realize, hey, I'm changing the way I live because of this. It really helps you with this sort of memory augmentation or building new habits and routines to be able to just write them down, to document them step by step. Here's what I need to do next to achieve this goal, or to, every day, the first thing I write in my journal is, for example, I remembered to put my keys in the key bowl again. That's great. Right?
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a thing I'm going to celebrate in my journal every single day. And then it will become a habit. You can remember where you came from. For example, here's one that kind of surprised me. My folks were going through some old boxes of photos and started scanning and sending me photos of from years and decades and generations gone by, so I'll get this, this was your great, great, great grandfather, and he ran an apothecary, and here's a little story. So I'll take that and I'll put it in my digital journal, which I'll talk about in a moment. And I'll write that little story, right? I'll tell that story to myself about this, long lost relative. And
that is such a great idea.
You know why? Here's why. This is so important to me. And I didn't realize this until I started doing it, that when I write that story, this is Grandpa Curtis, and he was a drunk, and he died a drunk. And there is alcoholism in the family. And by writing this down and celebrating the accomplishments that he had and the great sort of sadness that was his end of life, I get to reflect on growth. And that is really important. That I am today, who I am today represents growth from where we in our family were generations ago. And I get to celebrate that. And I get to think about, even though I might be having trouble week to week, day to day, generation after generation, I represent something new and something of an improvement in my family. And that's something neat. I can carry with me.
Yeah. Right.
So beyond sort of goal setting and life logging, hey, I had a great cup of coffee today at this particular location. It was good. I would go back here. You can put that kind of stuff in there. You can process notes from therapy. With all of these things, a journal, I believe, serves you best when you not only dictate what happened in your life, but when you stop and you ask yourself, why? And how does this impact me? Right? I think that makes a journal really, really valuable, and the whole process of journaling really valuable. So, I've talked about my love of field notes, which are always with me in my iPad and Apple Pencil. They're constant companions. So what do I do with them? Well, a few key apps for me in my digital journaling process. Again, I'm iOS, but I strongly encourage you to evaluate your chosen platform and see if you can find something similar. I start in GoodNotes because that's a beautiful handwriting app. It's just a blank page and it works very well with the Apple Pencil. And I'll sit down just like I'm writing in a paper journal, and I'll write for a little while. Maybe it's a sentence, maybe it's a paragraph, maybe it's a couple of pages as I'm processing something throughout the day. I try to do that. I try to do that every day, sometimes every other day, every couple of days. But like you, I kind of give myself permission to not do it. And then I send that page to Day One, which is, we've talked about Day One, is my very favorite journaling app. They don't have handwriting recognition in it, or I would just be writing directly into Day One. But I did write the developers, and they did say, that's coming. Apple Pencil support is coming, along with video entries and audio entries and all kinds of great things. My favorite feature in Day One right now is the activity feed. You hit a little plus button, and if you've tied in your Facebook and Instagram and all of your accounts, and it also watches where you've been. If you give it permission to watch your locations on a map, it'll tell you, hey, you've been to 7 locations today. You took 14 pictures and you posted this on your social media platforms. Do you want to create entries out of any of these? Right. So if you took a picture on Facebook and we're at a party or something and you want to bring it into your journal, which is a little bit more private and allow you a place to really share your thoughts, this is where you would do that. I just love that. That whole concept is great. Apps I use with it, ScanBot and Unfade. ScanBot is the best digital scanning app available for Android and iOS. Unfade is made by the same people, and it has much of the same engine, but it's really designed to take old photos and scan old photos and apply a little restoration filter to them if you have old photo albums you want to add in there. And that's great for that sort of history logging, where you really want to process kind of what came before. So those are the tools and apps and that I use for journaling. Now that you have figured out how to turn off all your notifications and silence that digital noise, try writing instead. And with that, I do have a plug. Our friend who has been a guest on the show, Michelle Chalfant, you remember old Michelle.
The adult chair.
The adult chair.
Love her.
Love her. A lot of folks wrote in after her last appearance on the show. They really enjoyed the metaphor of the adult chair and how that helps them think about their sort of emotional state, their relationships with emotional reactions throughout the day. Michelle has also discovered the wonders of journaling again. And, she also has been a journaler all her life, but she was inspired as a result of this last month of journaling to do a 30-day journaling challenge where she is sending out daily email prompts starting November 1st through the month of November. So every day at early in the morning, whatever it is, you're going to get a little notification that says, hey, here's something for you to think about to journal, and a little reminder to practice journaling, however you choose to do it, whether you do it digitally like me, or if you pick up a piece of paper or go out and get a bona fide journal or a Moleskine, however you choose to do it, you'll get a little reminder, a little prompt every day from Michelle if you head over to her 30 days.
And you're going to have this in the show notes, right? Because I want to sign up. Link is in the
show notes. Absolutely. There's a link on the page, and you can jump over to her 30-day journaling challenge and get yourself on the list. Starts November 1st. Now, as this goes live, I will probably let this go live on Monday night, just so people have a little bit of an extra time to get on the list, because as of November 1st, that's when the prompts come out. You don't want to miss one. So There you go.
But if it is after November 1st, you can still sign up, right?
You can still sign up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make that work. So anyhow, that's the deal.
That's great.
That's the pitch. I think this is use November and figure out how to get in touch with yourself. For me, it's when I'm really running my head into the ADHD ceiling, just taking an intentional 5 minutes to write some thoughts down to, I'm in another one of those spaces, Nikki, where I had to delete Facebook and Twitter and all of the social apps from my devices because it was just too tempting. And I've replaced that again with writing and just taking a minute to standing in line to write a couple of sentences, to take a picture of where I am and to think about it, to be introspective, to remind myself, even if I've written it 1,000 times, to remind myself that I'm okay. I'm going to see the other side of this. I know I'm frustrated. I know I'm spinning, but at the other side of it, there is light. And I have to remind myself of that constantly. So that's my pitch for today.
Love it. Thank you so much. Well, this is so helpful.
Thank you, Nikki. And thank you, everybody, for hearing me out. I hope one or two of these things helps you. Let us know. Let me know how it's going. Find us. We'll all
journal together.
We'll all journal together.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So it was fun making these notes and kind of thinking about how the process works for me. And I hope,
great.
As I like to say, I hope my life serves as a warning to others. So with that, we'll close it up.
With that, we sign out, right?
On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.